Now, I know there are some lessons that 2020 taught us that we wish we didn't have to learn. And there's still some lessons that 2021 is teaching us now. But if we're honest, there are some lessons that we learned during quarantine that are lifelong lessons that could be life changing. But before I get into all that, let me welcome you back to my channel. My name is Ayanna, and this is Beyond Committed, where we talk about everything from life, faith, family, marriage, motherhood, and everything in between, and we take them beyond. If this is your first time here, welcome, and I'm so glad you stopped by. And to make sure you're not a stranger, make sure you press that subscribe button below and then turn on your notifications so you don't miss a video. All right, now let's dive right in. I don't know of another year to where we were all more excited to just turn the page on it. I know for me, New Year's Eve is not a big thing with a husband and kids. I'm like, look, I will see the new year in the morning. But this year we were like, no, we are all staying up. We all need to see the page turn on 2020 because it was filled with so many twists and turns. And there was 3 things that we all needed to leave in 2020 that I talked about in a recent video. But despite all the ups and downs and the twists and turns that was 2020, there are some real life lessons that we all learn and that we need to take forward and allow us to grow and go exactly where God has us. And there are 3 important life lessons that we all learned during quarantine about ourselves that we need to carry with us into 2021. The first lesson was less is more. I mean, really, because with so many things changing, what we could do, where we could go, where we couldn't go, what we couldn't do, it was becoming really apparent like, okay, is all of this stuff really essential when we had to take a step back, stop doing all of the things we were doing, changing our routines, changing our habits, changing the things we were doing? It caused us all really to take a pause and kind of look to see, okay, did I really need to be doing all that? Did our kids need to really be involved in all that? Was I focusing on the right things? Was I making sure that I was doing what I needed to do for me? Was I taking care of myself in the way I should have been? Was I doing for others the way I wanted to and not just what time allowed? So it's made us just kind of take a pause and be like, okay, look, I don't really need to be doing all that. I don't really need to be buying all of that. I don't really need all the things. And it's so important that in the midst of like all the life lessons that we learn, we realize that, you know what, less is really more, and quarantine really taught us a big lesson about that. And the second lesson was reevaluating our priorities. And this truly goes with less is more. Because now that we're having to refocus, now that we're having to look at what is truly important, okay, now that we know what is truly important, what we want to focus on, how do we prioritize those correctly? How are you prioritizing your faith? Are you making the time to talk to God? Are you making the time to pray? Are you making the time to read your Bible? Are you making your time to be in small communities, even if virtually? Are you making the time for your husband? Is that a priority? Or were all of the things you were doing and going for the kids, for yourself, all of those becoming a bigger priority than your marriage? I mean, and it was an eye-opener for some of us. I know for me, I'm like, okay, I say my marriage is a priority, but if I looked at my schedule, the things that were devoted to my marriage or to my husband was like the last things I did for the day, if I did them at all, because all the other to-dos had to get checked off. So it's so important that when we reevaluate our priorities, we're making sure that, okay, what is important to me, and am I being intentional about doing the time that is necessary to invest in them, and making sure I'm making the time to invest not just in others but also in yourself, because self-care is such a good priority for you to have, because it's hard to pour out from an empty cup. So I know one of the biggest lessons that I learned about myself that I needed to carry into 2021 from quarantine was, reevaluating your priorities and making sure that all your to-dos are lined up with what you say you value. And the third lesson I know all of us learned during quarantine about ourselves is that we are more resilient and capable than we ever realized, because the world changed on us. But not just during quarantine, the world changes on us all the time. Nothing stays the same. So as we look to move and do things differently in a world that has changed around us, how do we do that? How do we go from just surviving to thriving? We do that by using the God-given talents and abilities that God has already placed within us, and realizing that there is so much more within us than we even realize, so much more within us to do. There's bigger dreams, there's bigger goals, there's so much more for us to do and to go in this world. And sometimes it has to be forced out of us. We have to get in a position where, okay, we have to go and strive for more. We can't just keep in the same rut. We can't just keep in the same routine. We can't just keep doing the same thing. There is more for us to do. And I know for me, I realized this at different points in my life, going from a pharmacist to a mom of three. And I'm like, okay, how do I balance this all? So God gave me the piece to just, okay, the career we're going to take a pause on. So I became a stay-at-home mom, which I absolutely loved. Being able to just pour into my kids in a new way and being able to focus just on my family and my marriage was so just a valuable experience. But over time, that shifted too. The desire to do more shifted. So I realized that, okay, how am I going to do this? And God revealed to me, and I know as he reveals to you, when he gives you a different dream, when your life shifts, when the season of life changes for you, that there's something more for you to do that he's already equipped you to do. And now that I coach wives and wives-to-be to gain the clarity, confidence, connections that they need to live the beyond lives, have the beyond faith, and have the beyond marriages that they want, God was already showing me for years before that I was already equipped to do that. I just had to realize I was capable over time. So I encourage you to take a pause, realize that God has equipped you with so much more, and just look back at those capabilities, those gifts and those challenges, and know that, okay, yes, quarantine was hard. Yes, this pandemic has lasted longer than we ever wanted to do. But there are so many life lessons that you have learned through it that can help you to go and grow into the woman that God created you to be. All right, that's it for today. And I want to know, what is one life lesson you learned during quarantine about yourself? Let me know in the comment box below. And if you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up, and make sure you press that subscribe button and turn your notifications so you don't miss a video. All right, now, until I see you again, bye.